Welcome, cleanse clubbers and all wellness enthusiasts. Everybody who's excited to meet and connect and have monthly conversation around ways in which focusing on our body, coming back to the power that lives within, and engaging in dialogue and conversation with others who are also focused on their wellness, maybe practitioners. It's a great way where you can get another set of eyeballs, new insight, different experience. So that's really what we come here to do monthly. And then we always want to leave you with some learning because, quite frankly, networking is great. And you may already know these things, but I know if you're like me, that you really benefit from hearing from others' lived experience and also really hearing how they explain it or what their story was, because it may help someone when you're working with them or when you're going through it yourself. So before we even get started, I would love to know, Jeanette, Eva, if you guys are in a space to share, what is each of your, just tell me briefly, like, what's your experience with fasting personally? You may know more than you've applied. And by the way, I'm going to raise my hand. Like, I knew more about fasting, like what it was, different types, way before I ever integrated it into my life. And Allie, if you want to come off, I know you're driving, but if you want to come off too and share, we'll just have you go last. We don't need to see you on camera if you don't want to, but would love to hear yours too. But if whoever wants to go first, would love to hear your experience.
I can go. I've only done the version with the Dr. Cabral detox where you have shakes. I've done herbal tea and water like until dinner. And by dinner time, I knew that I should have something, even if it's just like cucumber slices. So that's about the extent for me.
For me with fasting, I typically don't have too much of an issue. I'm able to just work through the grumbles of the stomach. Um, I have with the liver cleanses that we do with fat fasting. Um, I have allowed myself either some of my pure organic pineapple juice or the pure organic apple juice as well, only because I know that those are helpful in the process with the malic acid. So I would allow myself that as a way of settling any type of craving I may or may not have had. But otherwise, not too bad. And typically, when it comes to the end of fasting, on the second day, um, you would think that, oh my God, you're going to wake up and you're just going to want to gorge. And I'm like, eh, it's usually afternoon time before I'm really even in the mood for anything. Again, it might be some light juice or something, but I don't want the heavy. I'm not craving the heavy.
And so is 24 hours or 40, what's been the longest amount of time for you, do you think?
Well, it would be like 9, 8 to 9 on because I've always done my fast on Fridays typically. So like 8 to 9 Thursday evening. And then it would be, 1, 2 o'clock Saturday afternoon.
Love it. Thank you. Thanks for sharing that.
So
I love
a
having
little
the
longer
insight
than
into
just
your
the
journey.
24, but I've noticed the last few times that my body's not screaming that it needs something other than, water in that. And again, I don't want to give it anything super heavy.
I love knowing that,
Although
Eva.
my
Yeah.
choices aren't always the greatest, and this probably wasn't the best weekend to do the cleanse, but
We live and we learn. That's the power of repeat.
yes, yes. If I actually looked at my calendar from the days, and sorry if I'm getting off on a tangent, if I actually looked at the calendar and the dates and the way things were planned out, it actually would have been the best option for me to fast this Thursday and have that be my night with the olive oil and the lemon juice, and would have had Friday all day at home because after all said and done, I looked at my calendar and I was like, I'm sitting at home for an all day CE course where I'm have to be on a Zoom call from 9 o'clock in the morning till 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Well, what a better time to, let my body do its thing because I can get up and use the bathroom, right? It's not anything that I have to be glued 100%. Um, and then this weekend, the weekend of the cleanse, I was not as kind to my body as I should have been when it came to the whole rest thing. Um, because it was planned on my niece's bridal shower weekend that was being hosted at my house. And so my preparations actually started on Wednesday evening for a Sunday shower. So with a fast and a cleanse and needing to be close to home, all in the process, that's when like I definitely planned that wrong. It went well, but it would have been better for me had I really
Yeah.
looked and planned.
And the beautiful thing about this is that for the rest of your time cleansing, you're going to be even more, you'll have even more forethought in the projecting of when it is best. And we learn that because we'll start learning and we'll start layering other things like where our cycle is or where the moon cycle may be. Or, you know what I mean? So it's like, this is the power of the repeat. So I love that. Thank you. Thank you so much for
You're
sharing.
welcome.
Allie, I see that you aren't driving, so you can share. Tell us, sweet sister.
I just got home. So I will say that my entry into intermittent fasting in a very consistent way was the Faster Way to Fat Loss program, which is an app you put on your phone. And it encouraged me to intermittent fast for 16 hours. And my favorite window that worked for my body, because every body is different, was to stop eating at 7 p.m. And then my first meal would be at 11 a.m. So that would give me that 16-hour window. And just learning about the benefits of giving my body that break was just such a cool entryway into the benefits of intermittent fasting, at least. And then that also launched me into a 24-hour fast once a month. And I will tell you, when I heard the words 24-hour fast the first time, I was not a fan of that. And it's like a marathon where it's more mental than physical. You know, when you run a marathon, they say it's 80% mental and 20% physical. I feel like the thought of a 24-hour fast for a lot of people, especially a water fast, it's more of a mental chatter game. Um, so my point of sharing that is that once you do it, you realize that it's not that bad. For most people, some of us that get like headachy or nauseous or have other things come up, which I'm sure Lindsaya will talk about tonight. We just need to be more prepared, have electrolytes nearby, those kinds of things. So, and then I did my very first ever 3-day water fast in January. And I will tell you, it was one of the most profound, empowering experiences. And, I would never recommend somebody just jump into a 3-day water fast. It took that working up, that building those muscles, and the mentalness, the mental game to get there. But it is doable, it is possible, and the body will say thank you for doing it. So that was my journey. That's been my experience. And I love this conversation. I think it's so important for anybody listening, whether you're a part of Cleanse Club or you're just, like Lindsaya said, into the wellness game. Um, think about all the tools we have at our fingertips and what's free. Fasting is free. Water, for the most part, is accessible to us. So just it's a really great tool to have.
I agree. I agree. And it is. I mean, fasting, beyond being, fasting being free, the reality is that there's this idea that, and it has become trendy again. I know that I used to be someone who really identified with believing that I needed small meals all throughout the day. Like, that's what I thought for a million reasons. And again, every body is different. So our eating and consumption window will vary based on also what our goals are, right? Like if you're going into a figure competition, you're looking to put on tons of muscle mass or mass in general, you're probably not intermittent fasting. You're probably eating more like what I said was more my aforementioned conditioning. However, it's been happening for thousands of years throughout history, and there have been so many reasons why for fasting, everything from spiritual belief to healing and recovery to availability. Literally, when can we have or get food? And so the beautiful thing is that it's become a reminder that we've been programmed. And I always like to talk about fasting from the perspective of like, we've been programmed because then we become consumptive, and because we then consume more, and we also are really have a high desire for immediate gratification and convenience. We have started eating at a frequency that isn't actually natural for the human body. And so fasting is important for a number of reasons, for all sorts of things. And you can, again, it's biblically connected, and it's also connected to every religion. And in the spiritual body, we refrain from eating, even if you're, whatever your higher belief, you refrain from eating so that you can pay attention to your body. You can give honor, you can give sacrifice. But really it's all about autophagy, which is what you're looking to create. You're looking to go and, give your body an opportunity to experience ketosis. This is a really important thing. And I always like to keep it super simple. You guys, of course, you could talk to Jeanette or Allie or someone who wants to walk you through. And I do understand deeply many of the processes. I don't understand all of them. And I continue to listen and learn about what happens within the body. But really what it comes down to is that we've been trained now to eat so much. And as someone who has had disordered eating in her past, I also was really afraid about fasting because I was worried how it would impact me psychologically, what that would mean in terms of how I would function and if it would serve me. And so actually the documentary Fasting is where my husband and I watched that documentary. So I don't know, you have to see when it came out, and just know that next month we fasted for the first time, because I used to believe that there's no way that I could go 24 hours without food. Like I just thought I might die. And I definitely felt like the hunger would like overtake me. And if you knew me in a former life, it was known about me. A characteristic that was known about Lindsaya is that she gets hangry. Okay. My blood sugar instability was super high, and I was eating all the time. I was truly crashing. And I also had a psychological dependency on food. And I still experience some anticipatory anxiety when it comes to food in situations of scarcity. So I know that now about my human behavior. And I'm also human, and sometimes like I fall back into patterns. So to me, I say that fasting is something that I do consistently, because the more that I do it, the more I'll fall into that pattern. Like the more that I will fall into the pattern of like, eating less frequently. So I really do love, if I was to say probably my favorite, if I was to design it and there was no other timing of like, kids in the morning or husband coming home later. Like if we were just on vacation, I'm very much an OMAD kind of eater. So a one meal a day, like that's my favorite thing, like one eating window. And I just like to like eat until I'm happy, whatever it is, within like obviously reasons. I'm not, we want to fuel our body with high volume food. I really love like a meal or sometime between usually 1 and 4 o'clock would be like most ideal, and just eat a ton of food, and that would be amazing. Maybe a snack later if I chose to. So that's what I have found feels best for me. Now I tend to live more when I'm living more optimally on the 16-8. So very similar to you, Allie. I loved that. And some of the things that happened were I finally lost if you will, and I'll say rather, because I don't like to say lost, because it isn't about finding. I shed weight I had never shed before when I moved to this kind of eating. And I know it also helped because I have some gut sensitivities and some gut imbalances and healing, that I've been on a healing protocol for my gut, and it does keep getting better. Thank you, Jesus. However, I will say that the intermittent fasting gives me more ability to rest. So healing, I feel, has been happening faster when I'm eating less frequently. It's not about eating less. So again, there's intermittent fasting, which we all know. There's also time restricted eating is another way that people will talk about this. So intermittent fasting, the time restricted is just literally like, what is that capsule of time in which you're eating? And water fasting is considered like the most pure, true fast. So there are other layers of fast. And in our fasting, our full moon monthly fast, the reason it's fast your way is because we, just as Allie said so beautifully, most people, the first thing they step into is like the one day. Or they'll step into like a larger window. Like, oh, I usually eat 3 meals a day. I'll eat 2, and I'll stretch the window. So we want it to be a stair-step experience so that you build the confidence and also the understanding, the insight around your body. Because if we just tell you like, oh yeah, jump right into water fasting, you could have more of the less desirable effects because your body would immediately be, it would likely be shedding some toxicity. And if you're we already know in the Cleanse Club, if your 3 Ps aren't already performing, then you are likely going to experience even more detoxing. And if you haven't like known to add binders and things like that. So one form of fasting. So the longest I have fasted for with juices and smoothies was over 7 days. Water was almost 5. So that's been my experience personally. And I didn't actually do smoothies. It was juicing exclusively for the 7 days. I would have never done, but I have had people close to me is do the dry fasting, which is like no water, no food. I'm not really interested in that one, and there's less research around that, but I do know people who have had miraculous experiences with it. So again, that one does require, they also all require, and none of this is medical advice. I should have said that at the very top. This is all just conversational, experiential. And the more intensive the fast, the more ideal it is to have someone that is a partner in your health, walking with you, watching over you. Somebody knowing that you're participating in, and urine fasting too. There is that addition. Although I haven't done as much research, I've heard about it. I've obviously witnessed it, but I haven't I know how many stem cells come in our urine, all of those things, but I've never looked at what the protocol is outside of the morning urine, how much to drink. And quite frankly, it doesn't interest me too much. I've done a lot of things, but that one, it is, I do enemas. So who am I? But I don't have to taste the coffee going in my butt or coming out. But the down the throat thing is another level. So, by the way, for those of you watching the replay, Allie is putting this in the chat, and she's making me think about drinking urine, which isn't what I really want to do. No, I'm totally kidding. No, I'm actually telling the truth. I'm not kidding. That is actually the truth. So again, water fasting is one modality. However, we stair step. So from intermittent fasting, it can go into juice fasting, or forgive me, let me say that differently. It can go into smoothie fasting, a little bit more sustenance. These are going to be more fast mimicking. They're not based on the ingredients will determine how much you are truly mimicking or could even get to ketosis. But they're to start the practice. They're to begin the journey, to begin the experience, to soften what it is to remove psychologically from the need for chewing. Because this is something that we become dependent. I find myself, so right now I'm doing the Prolon, the 5-day fasting mimicking diet. And it's, even when I'm doing it here, this one is interesting because usually I fast and I'm not doing anything, but these are boxed days, and each day has an allotted amount of food. Been years since I've done something like this. A friend gifted it to me, and because she learned about it through me, which is funny, but I had never purchased one. And what I will say is that what I recognize is how much brain power I spend thinking about what I'm going to make for my family, what I'm going to make for myself, what I'm going to eat later. And so there's a true rest that happens when we refrain from food, especially when we're the caretakers or the curators of what others eat. So that's a part that I like to talk about, because as we step into smoothies or juicing, it gives us an ability to practice, like sitting at the table with our family while they're eating and removing ourselves, or like evaluating what thoughts come up, all of these things. So those are some stair steps. Again, I'm doing the fasting mimicking diet, which is a very low calorie eating plan, and it really tricks the body into thinking or believing. I'm evaluating, like, how does this feel for me versus fasting, but I'm also having a lot of fun trying a new protocol. I think that all of this is easy enough to make and do ourselves, and the convenience is fantastic if that feels stressful. So that's been super dope to try so far. And if you don't know, autophagy is just very easily, it's like when our cells essentially are self-eating. Okay, so like I just think of them as like the Pac-Man, like they're going through and just like cleaning up all the gunk, all the fragmented or damaged proteins or dysfunctional cells or any of those things. Like any cellular waste is just literally like being consumed by our own body. And we know that this kind of removal like helps with our cellular repair, and it helps with our mitochondrial health, and it helps with immune function. And so when we're fasting, what's important is definitely drinking water, hydration. You won't need to focus on drinking water if you're drinking juices, because that's literally robust fluid nutrition, and it's polyphenol rich. And so you don't need to like force yourself to drink more water. If you're drinking juices, then you listen to and pay attention to your body's thirst signal. That's the most important thing, or if you get hungry. But juicing, you won't have the worry of the electrolyte loss or any of those things. But water fasting, it can be important to add some salt. Some people even do rely on some electrolyte upgrades or some lemon in their water. Methods like this will help, but again, we're looking to turn off essentially the need for the body to spend time digesting, so that we can really do that cellular repair with autophagy. And so water fasting and the extended, like the longer that you go, truly the autophagy becomes more significant. So most people can reach autophagy within the first 24 hours. It really does become optimized the longer that you go. So 48, 72 hours and beyond are really remarkable. And even longer than that. I have friends that have done 30 days. I have never done that myself, but I do believe that there's incredible benefits. Obviously, like the other protocols, the fast mimicking, the smoothies, the juices, those are more like moderate fasting. And the more that we're putting in nutrient dense food. So I would consider Prolon a prepackaged, something that's pre-measured, very easy, versus if we're making things ourselves, better nutrition. So, when it comes to fasting, my invitation is to make it feel simple, explorative, to let us think about it like any other form of exercise that we do, that we investigate, like how do we feel afterwards? How do we feel before? And to also know that still many places in the world, fasting happens, yes, because of poverty, but also people fast because of availability. And so give yourself the freedom to step away from thinking and the programming that we are infiltrated with, that like 3 square meals a day, or that a day without food would hurt any of us. There are very few populations of people that couldn't do a 3-day fast for any reason outside of mental, the mental strength that it will take, that comes with building up by practice, right? Like, so it isn't just jump into the deep end, but there's really very few people who couldn't work up to a successful and feeling very confident, and where 3 days or 2 days feels easy, and 1 day's happening very regularly. And so I do like to fast monthly. That is something that I believe has been so powerful, and especially doing it around the full moon. So that's how we do it in community, because your parasitic activity is higher. Again, you're giving your body autophagy, so you're giving it the ability to go in and help and like essentially come online with you for any kind of inflammatory or dysregulated or cellular waste kind of experience that's happening in the body. So I like to do a preparatory day, the day prior to, if I do all 3 days. But again, we do fast your way. So sometimes there are months that, Eva, you spoke to it at the beginning of the call. I will look at my calendar. That's great that it's a full moon, but there's no chance that I could fast longer than 24 hours that weekend based on what's happening on my calendar. So I do what I can do. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't beat myself up and go, oh my gosh, I have to do 3 solid days every single month. I simply know that around the full moon, I'm going to fast, and I'm going to do my best to fast as close to the peak as possible. So I just I like look it up online, see when it's going to be, and I jockey that, and I try to stretch to 72 hours as much as I can monthly. And it's profound what it does. Have I done it every single month? No. Have I done it a ton of months? Yes. So it isn't about perfection. It's not about measuring. It's not comparative, but it gives our body this power to come in. Like, to me, I think about it as like leveraging what God has already created with the moon's rotation and how that changes the oceans. Like, it's obviously having an impact on my body. And when I can nourish my body at such a high level and take out the distraction of all the other things, the needing to prepare food, the chewing, and I can really come into rest and healing, I continue to be amazed by what happens inside of me, and it continues to charge me up to keep going. So I hope to fast with each of you, and I am always here if you have any questions. And I saw that Allie also put in the chat, and then we're just gonna like, anything that you want to share or that came up for you, or anything from your experience that you want to speak into the recording too, for those that are going to watch this. And Allie said, for me, I love that it quiets the food noise. 100% Allie, like wholeheartedly. I love that. That's like where I say it like clears up the thinking, because you're like, we spend way more time thinking about food and eating than I think most of us are aware of, especially if you've had, and Allie, I only speak to your experience because it's both in your book and you speak about it publicly, and I know that, but we share this past history with food disorders. And so there's a lot of food noise if you've had disordered eating, whatever that may be. And we want to be part of that healing. So she said specifically after the 36-hour mark, 100%. Day 2 for me, day 2, sometimes day 3, but most of the time day 2 is the loudest noise for me. It's when the gremlins creep in and it's like, you don't want to do this. You're for sure too weak. You're hungry, all the things. And yeah, such a nice mental break. So that's what Allie said. And so that's what we wanted to bring you today. We'll pause here and see if anyone wants to add any wisdom, insight, takeaway, question before we get into our true Q&A, actually, because we do that off of recording. So we'll say if you have any input, if there's anything that's populated, we'll share that with everyone today, and then we'll shut the recording down, because the benefit of coming live is that you have everyone on to Q&A, collaborate with, and ask questions for. And I actually forgot that almost for a moment. So anything that bubbled up before we stop our recording? Okay. Cleanse Clubbers, we love you. Enjoy the recording. Yes, Allie?
Really quick, are we still recording?
Yes, we are.
Okay. Miss Jeanette, one of our beautiful faces on tonight, so I wanted to make sure this was said while we are recording, is going to be our guest next month. And she's going to be talking about all things parasites, ticks, and Lyme disease. We love these monthly calls so much, and tonight's topic is near and dear to my heart. And also, I want everybody listening to this to invite 3 friends next month, because this conversation around parasites is going to lead us into the parasite cleanse. And then also all this chitter chatter out there about ticks and Lyme disease, and what that can feel like, how to support yourself. Jeanette is a wealth of information. So we're really lucky to have her join us next month. And I just wanted to, I know it's a busy time of year. Summer is so hard, to carve out these pockets of time. But like Lindsaya said, your health is worth it. And these conversations that we have, you're always going to walk away with little beans of wisdom. So thank you, Jeanette, for being willing to do that for us
Thank
next
you.
month.
I'm excited.
Yeah, we're excited too.
So excited, so excited. Okay, Cleanse Clubbers. So thanks for tuning into the replay, and then get ready and come on live next month. We will be back, and Jeanette will be sharing wisdom and leading us right into our next iteration of a layer of cleansing. So super excited. And thanks for joining this evening. Bye.
Bye.